The CyberTexas Foundation's mission is to develop the next generation cybersecurity workforce. We do this by several means. For example, we develop and offer curriculums for use in elementary, middle, and high schools. We lend support to the Texas Cybersecurity Education and Economic Development Council, and we work with the University of Texas at San Antonio's Center for Infrastructure Assurance and Security and other centers of academic excellence to assist community leaders on how to effectively prepare and respond to a cyber incident. The foundation is also well known for its efforts in assisting San Antonio teams competing in the Cyber Patriot competition. We design and develop training aids for coaches, mentors, and students. We recruit mentors and conduct clinics like the one you're attending this evening. The foundation is largely a volunteer organization, but its span touches every school district in the greater San Antonio region. If you'd like to learn more about the CyberTexas Foundation or help us with our mission, visit our website at www.cybertexas.org. Could we have the first slide, please? As you can tell by the title, our purpose this evening is to orient new coaches and mentors to the Cyber Patriot competition by providing some advice, beginning with how to establish a sound foundation for not just your team, but for your program. We'll cover some critical areas of the rules, point you to the locations of important training aids, offer some experienced advice on how to organize your practice and how to create winning habits for your team. And while I said this was geared to new coaches and mentors, I believe it will also serve as a refresher to returning coaches and those schools that are restarting their programs after the era of COVID. We do have some ground rules for this evening. There's a great deal of information to cover, so we will be holding all questions until the end. However, we do ask that you use the chat function to submit your questions as we move through the topics. You are all muted at this point, or should be. If you aren't, please mute yourself. But you will have a chance to offer individual questions after we've gone through the chat questions. For your convenience, this session is being recorded, and it and the slides we are using will be posted on the CyberTexas Foundation website. And while this is scheduled to go 90 minutes, we are prepared to stay here longer if necessary. Our presenter this evening is CyberTexas's lead mentor and mentor coach, Mr. Frank Hall. Mr. Hall is originally from Baltimore, Maryland, but now resides here in the San Antonio region. He's held numerous positions in the information technology domain, everything from a help desk to the domain enterprise administrator. He is currently involved in network and cyber operations with the 16th Air Force. He has begun Cyber Patriot programs, has mentored and coached both service and open division teams, and even formed a team based at the Hondo Public Library. He's been called upon by coaches and mentors throughout the United States for his experience and competition advice. So ladies and gentlemen, here's your presenter for the evening, Mr. Frank Hall.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. I hope everyone is having a good evening, and thank you for joining us here today for this orientation. Here are the topics for today or this evening's agenda. We're going to go over how to create a team structure and resources, tips for success, forensic questions, lessons learned, and then we'll have the Q&A session. So creating a Cyber Patriot team. Starting a team requires a lot of preparation, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of coordination in a lot of different areas. The first step that you would need to take if you haven't done it already is to register with the Cyber Patriot website themselves as a coach or a mentor. That involves going to their website, going to the volunteer section, filling out their background paperwork, and then waiting for a response back from CyberPatriot that your background check has passed, and they will send you an account login so you can log into the dashboard. It is also important that when you're registering teams and yourself as well, that you use an email address that you regularly use, because everything that CyberPatriot is going to send to you goes directly to that email address. So when we have accurate registration for the mentors and teams, make sure that not only you're using the same address for yourself for CyberPatriot, but your technical mentors are as well, and that your team members are either using their school email accounts or email account that the parent checks or they check regularly, because everything as far as registration will go to them. And when you register them for NetACAD, encourage them to use the same email address they're using for registration, because everything that will flow from NetACAD and from CyberPatriot will go to that one address, and it has to be one that they check regularly. Next thing you want to do is inform your IT and administration leadership that you're starting a team, or you would like to start a team either at your school or at your organization. I have started teams at schools, and I've had to talk with principals, vice principals, counselors, IT directors to make sure that they understand what CyberPatriot is, how it works, and understand that this is not a hacking competition. We're not going to be hacking anything on the school network, but everything is done virtually, and that they're going to need a port 80, somewhat untethered internet connection to allow communication for the scoring board in the image. So you can upload files for the Cisco challenge, and that you can download updates for the image that are required in order to score the points. That goes along with the connectivity and resources and the hardware for practice. Having that port 80 connection there for your ability to communicate not only with CyberPatriot, but just do general research is very important. Resources, we'll cover that a little bit later, but as far as resources goes, proper paperwork, checklists, anything you could find on the internet to use or print off to give to the students so they could keep it in a binder so they can use as reference material. The right hardware to practice with. So there are technical specs that CyberPatriot has on their website. And once you get these computers, either from your school district or someone donates them to you, make sure they are correct and able to handle the virtual machine or VM player software, so they can properly work, have proper functionality for the virtual images for competition and for packet tracer, which is used for the Cisco challenges. Another important step is to communicate with parents. Parents are very important, not only for helping the coach out if their coach has more than one team, where they can go get food, or they can assist the coach in other ways, making sure they have paperwork. But it also, they can also better understand what you're teaching their kids. And there could be also a great source. It could be a technical mentor, especially if one of your students has a parent that works in the IT or cyber field. You could be able to wrangle them in as a technical mentor to help with the team. You can engage with the parents, whether you have a orientation meeting, explain what CyberPatriot is, handle the CyberPatriot pamphlet that's out there. You print a couple off from the website. Sit down and explain to the parents exactly what you're teaching them. I know that a couple of your returning coaches out there, and when we talked to you last time, I hope that you were able to talk with the parents and you got support from the parents after you started your team. So team structures and resources. For all you new coaches out there, maybe your second year as well, CyberPatriot has a new coach resource page on their website. This goes into detail about competitions, the technical specifications for the for your computers, the software versions that need to be loaded. And it also has a link to their YouTube walkthrough that they did for new coaches. So everything out there is geared towards Cyber Patriot, coming down at a hierarchical level, what you need to do from your school in order to compete. What we're doing here tonight, we're diving a little bit further in and building on what Cyber Patriot has already provided. How to recruit new members. Simplest thing to do is, one, if you see a kid that's in a computer science class, a programming class, or if you see them over there sitting alone, twiddling away on their phone, approach them and ask, hey, have you ever thought about cybersecurity? Or if they're on a computer science team, approach them. Have you ever thought about taking your programming skills and transferring it over to cybersecurity? They got to work together. Cyber Patriot also has recruiting paperwork or posters that you can hang up around the school or around your organization, wherever it is you're trying to recruit to get new kids. How do you organize a team? Team organization helps greatly for the competition. So you can have up to 6 team members, but only 5 team members can play at a time during the competition. So while you're organizing your team, make sure you have at least 1 or 2 of those kids that can check in with the rest of the team members to make sure they're staying in track. Because as you may or may not know, the coaches cannot interact with the students during the competition. Technical mentors cannot interact with the students during the competition, other than to troubleshoot and make sure connectivity is still there and the images and labs are still working. So when you're organizing your team, you might have multiple teams. If you have multiple teams, recruit one to be the team captain for everybody. So you as the coach, the mentor, can work through them to make sure everyone's getting the same information. I get this question asked a lot. How often do you practice? So I coach at Medina Valley and I coach at Hondo, and practices vary. At the high school, I practice with them twice a week for 90 minutes each time. When I go to Hondo, I'm out there for 2 hours once a week. So it's up to you working with your team, finding out what their schedule is like. Because I know at Medina Valley, I have a lot of kids that do a lot of extracurricular activity. They can do band, they do other ROTC clubs. So you have to, you can either say you're going to be on the team or you're going to be on another team. Or, if you want to try to work with them around what they would like to do and they want to be on the team, say, here's our scheduled days or our scheduled day, and here's how long we're going to practice for. Getting to know the Cyber Patriot website and where everything is located is good for any coach and mentor, because they add stuff, they change stuff, not consistently, but every few months something might be added. So if you haven't been out to the Cyber Patriot website already, it's www.uscyberpatriot.org. We'll have that link down there in the back a little bit later. They have everything about the competition you need to know. So you can ask us, you can ask anybody that you else worked with the Cyber Patriot before, but the number one place that you should go is the website. So using your school or personal email account and check it regularly. As I was saying before, you want to make sure that your students and yourself are using the consistent email address when you're registering for the competition, because all the information is going to be going there. I know I had kids that had put another email address because we were having issues using school email address. They wouldn't allow the link to come through, but then they would forget what their password was, so we'd have to wait for them to figure out the password. So if you're, make sure that you're using an email address they can use or check regularly. Learn how to download the images from Cyber Patriot. Now, this is critical for your new coaches, especially because coaches are the ones that get the emails from Cyber Patriot the week of the competition. So Cyber Patriot sends out an email outlining everything you need to know about the image, and they give you a link where to go download the images from. These images can be quite large, and they tell you that in the email. My suggestion is, since these can be quite large even when they're compressed, if your school network cannot handle downloading like a 6 gig download in a timely manner, you might want to go home and download the images and bring them with you to school. That's what I do when I go. We compete. I download them from my house. I take them to the school, and then we load them up onto the computers the night before competition. And there is a Facebook page group for Cyber Patriot mentors and coaches. So not only are we, you could call it Contact CyberTexas, you can join the Facebook group, and there are coaches from all over the country that do Cyber Patriot. I monitor the page regularly. I know a couple of you that are already coaching before monitor the page as well. And questions get asked all the time, technical questions. I'm having problems doing this, or how do I do this? And someone will respond to you and hopefully steer you in the right direction on how to solve your problem. Structure and resources. So read the rule book. Every year when they come out with a new rule book, I sit down and I read the rule book, everything, and I specifically concentrate on chapter 4, the competition rules. So this is very important because over the past couple of years with COVID, they've put things into the rule book for kids that can compete from home, or you got disconjoined teams. So some are at school, some are at home. They might change the rules this year. We're waiting for the new rule book to come out. As when I checked earlier, it hasn't been published yet. But these are the types of things you're looking for in the rule book. It'd be good for you as the coach to sit down with the team during a practice and go over specifically chapter 4, talking about what goes on during the competition. For instance, I get asked a lot, well, you know, how am I supposed to search for stuff during competition? And one thing that always comes up is the forensic questions. Well, you can't take the exact wording of the forensic question, throw it into Google and search for the answer. You can search for elements of the question, define how to answer it, but don't take the whole question, put it out there, and then try to find the answer. Evaluating your team's strengths and weaknesses in their baseline. So I'm sure every coach here, whether you've been coaching for a while or you're new, has to go with you're getting new students. So you have to evaluate what their knowledge is. I get kids that don't know anything to kids that have been on my team for 4 years, and they think they know more than I do. Sometimes they do. But you have to get that baseline of where everybody is. So, you know, if you have a test, or if you just want to ask them general questions, or if you want to put them behind an image, a very easy practice image, see how they deal with being inside the environment, that's a perfect way to gauge their knowledge. How to organize a practice. So practices for me, sometimes, especially at the beginning of the season, are chaotic, because I'm trying to get kids on images that have been there for a while because they just want to jump right back into doing an image to get reacquainted with what they have to do. And then I have to deal with registration of the new kids that are on the team. So it's kind of crazy at first, but you get into a rhythm. And the rhythm usually for me goes, you come in, kids settle down, we gather together, we pick a topic that spans all 3 areas, Windows, Cisco, and Linux. For instance, user and passwords. They go across all the platforms. We talk about why they're important, how to implement them, what security has to be applied to them, especially for encrypting passwords on Cisco, or making the complexity for Windows and Linux. And then we, go to your separate areas, because after that we split into Windows, Cisco, and Linux. I put them off in the groups so I can work with them as a whole. Now, you might have a different approach, whatever works best for you as your technical mentor or your coaches. That's something you have to work out for yourself. I found it easier to break them up into the groups. And if I have a technical mentor there, the technical mentor goes to that specific group that they're there to mentor. Where can I get practice materials for your sessions? This is probably one of the hardest things next to the forensic questions that I get asked and have a hard time answering. The basic thing is you search for it on Google. Just like I tell the kids during a competition, Google is your best friend. Coaches and mentors, Google is your best friend when you're looking for stuff as well. So if you're looking for baseline checklists that are already out there, just go out, search for Google, CyberPatriot, Windows 10 checklist. Labs and stuff like that, you can find them. They are available. Coaches, I would suggest that you download them first, run them through a couple of scans, fire up the VMs, and make sure they work properly before you hand them out to the students and let them start working on them. But they are available, they are out there. We have a link for it at the end of the session where you can grab some very good practice images that are out there right now. Cisco Labs. I always get asked about Cisco Labs as well. So if you're doing Cisco Net ACAD has very good curriculum. They have the lecture portion. Then when you go into it, they have the actual lab. The lab is supposed to coordinate with the current module, so the kids can start understanding how Cisco networking works. So they have labs built into the curriculum. But if you want extra labs that kind of go a little bit above and beyond, or additional labs to work with what they're working on currently inside the curriculum, those labs are out there online. You can find them. Study the CyberPatriot material that's out there. CyberPatriot has a great baseline material presentation for Windows, Cisco, and Linux. When you have a bunch of new students that are joining the team, that is the first place you should start, is with those presentations. You can either go over it with them or you can let them read it themselves. But they give that foundational knowledge of what CyberPatriot is looking for when you're playing the game and how to start securing the operating system. Though they can be found underneath learning materials on the website. There's a link at the end, I believe. Studying the CyberPatriot, how to motivate teams. I have a lot of kids on my teams, especially at Medina Valley. And every year after season, we have a CyberPatriot award ceremony. So the ROTC does its own award ceremony. We wait a couple of days after that, I have a CyberPatriot ceremony. This is one way I try to keep them motivated coming back, letting them know that I think they're doing a good job on the team. So I have goofy awards for them. I have my Cyber Viking award I give to them for the person I think that did the best out that year. I'll have a team leader award. I'll have a Cyber Defender award, stuff like that. So that's one way to keep them interested and engaged, because, hey, next year I want to come back and do this, and maybe I'll get an award. Tips for success. So CyberPatriot has 4 rounds in the regular season. And coaches, this is kind of vital for you to know if you're planning on trying to launch toward getting to the finals. So the competition runs over a 3-day period. The schedule's out on the website. It starts on a Friday at 9 and it ends Saturday at 3 a.m. Picks up again following Saturday at 8 a.m. Goes to midnight or 11:59. Starts again a Sunday at 10 and then goes out to 10 p.m. Sunday night. So new coaches, it's very something you have to know. You can only compete once during those 3 days. You pick your time with your team. You go do the 6 hours or less for the competition, and then you're done for the weekend. Now up here it has other competition days. Those are for extreme emergencies. I think it was last year, the year before, there were bad storms that hit Kentucky and Tennessee while the teams were competing. So Cyber Patriot, team called Cyber Patriot, they worked out additional competition days for them to finish the competition. But usually, unless it's one of those extreme circumstances, you have Friday through Sunday to compete. Now, if you're trying to, if you're vying for a position here, you want to kind of see how the other teams are doing, because I know other teams that do this, they wait until Sunday to compete. Because usually most teams compete on Friday, a lot more compete on Saturday, and then the remainder compete on Sunday. Now, if you haven't done an image before, or if this is your kid's first time seeing a competition image, stress to them the number one thing they need to do inside the competition before they do anything is to read the README file. It's right on the desktop. Cisco, the scenario pops up right as you log into the lab. That is their README file. It outlines the entire scenario for the Cisco lab and for the virtual machine image. It outlines users, what need to be there, who don't need to be there, protocols that need to stay installed or uninstalled, specific software that has to stay on the machine or has to be removed from the machine. But always make them read that README file. I make my teams read it twice and tell them to take notes while they're reading it, to pick out stuff that pops out to them that grabs their attention. Because like I tell them, you're going to read it the first time, you're going to glaze through it, you're going to miss something. So take time, read it again. Note taking is crucial for this competition. Whether you're just reading the README file or while you're going through the competition, write down everything, have them write down everything that they are doing. I changed the user from the passwords from this to this. I deleted this software. This was the answer to said forensic question. So this does not, it only helps them build the habit. But in the event that something happens, the image crashes and you have to restart the image, they have a running dialogue of what they've done so far. So when that image reloads, they can get back up to where they were quickly. But try to get them in the habit of doing that right in practice. Make sure each team member has a binder or a folder. Every resource that they write down, every answer list that they have from a practice image, everything they find on the internet to print off that they can use as a resource, tell them to save it and put it in a binder. I have kids that start as freshmen. The binder is very thin. They only have a few things that I give them and something they might have. But by the time they leave 4 years later, binder's about 3 inches, 4 inches thick, because they have saved everything throughout their time doing the competition. And, sometimes they take it with them. Sometimes they give it down to the next kids when they come in. So they have a binder that, they can pass on to the next teammate that has a bunch of stuff that they've learned over their years doing the competition. I know the team captains, when we switch team captains, we have a binder that's been on the team as long as I have, and it's over a decade old. So that's been through since Cyber Patriot 3, all the stuff that Cyber Patriot has done. Checklists are invaluable, like it says. Checklists help keep these kids on task when they're in the competition. Sometimes they get lost, they get stuck. It teaches them methodology to what to do during the competition. Like I was saying earlier, you can Google a checklist, a generic checklist, and you can find one. These are living documents. They don't have to stay, very thin. Kids can add to them. They can write down how to do things on these checklists, how to do or find certain things. For instance, how to check group policy. Well, what's the command for that? They can put it in their checklist. I know checklists that my kids have that are very thick. They're many, many pages. because they put down step by step on how to do certain things. Now, is that the point of the checklist? No, it's just to keep them on task. But the more detailed they make it, the more it helps them during competition. Remember what you did earlier as a later reference, especially vulnerabilities and the competition rounds get increasingly difficult. So as you're moving into round 3 and 4 of the competition, keep the stuff that you wrote from rounds 1 and 2, because it might be integrated back into rounds 3 and 4. So you can, have an understanding of what to look for. It might be a bit more involved. There might be more steps to find or more things to find, but at least they know where to look and how to look deeper in those later rounds. Be prepared for the first 2 rounds. As this is saying that you can only have 5 people playing at a time, even if you have 6 kids on a team. That 6th person is a member of the team, but they're the alternate. The only thing they can do is sit there and observe. They have no interaction with the team whatsoever. The only thing they can do is kind of write down notes of what they see. They might not get a chance to play, but having them observe what the team is doing and then telling you, the coach, hey, here's what I saw. And then after competition, here's what I think you need to work on, or here's what I saw you having difficulty with. That input is just as valuable as my input is to them. So 6 persons important if you have one. They can't play unless another person tags out for whatever reason. They have to leave early, not feeling well. And the only thing they can do is observe. Identify roles and hold mock competitions. Very important, especially for new teams. Appoint a team captain. Appoint somebody that is going to be able to take charge in the heat of the competition and say, are you doing this? Have you done this? If someone's having problems, hey, have another team member work with that person. Having mock competitions, very important, because it helps them get in the mind frame of what a competition actually feels like, putting that stress on them. I hold mock competitions, especially the week before actual competition. We'll come in, I'll have stuff loaded already. I'll tell them when they get there, put your stuff down, get into your teams, grab your notes, sit down, and wait for me to tell you to start. And you have an hour to get this many points. And that's what they do. It's just like a competition. They can't talk to the other team members. I'm not talking to them. I'm not helping them. I'm just sort of making sure stuff works. And then I watch the time. And then when that's done, we sit down and figure out, okay, where were you having issues? What were your questions? But it gets them in that mindset of this is how a competition works, which is exactly what they need, especially for the first and second years. Forensic questions. This is probably the hardest part of the competition, hands down, because coaches and mentors, we don't know what they're going to be presenting as forensic questions. We have no idea. They can cover everything from cryptography. You have to encrypt and decrypt files. You have steganography in there. You might have to find hidden files. You might have to find user IDs. It just depends on what they feel like throwing in there. And to put on top of that, they can combine these topics. So they can have a file that's hidden. They have to find it. They find something that's written inside the hidden file that's encrypted. They have to figure out how to decrypt what it is to get the answer. It can be complicated and long. I know it's frustrating for the kids. It's equally stressful for us as the coaches because we can't help them until after competition is done and we can talk to them. But over the years, these are usually the things that are comprising of the forensic questions. It's important to remember and stress this to your students that they have to answer these forensic questions before they do anything else. If they go in and start deleting users before they answer their forensic questions, they could be deleting the answer for a forensic question. And depending on the round, these questions are worth 8 to 10 points, which is a huge hunk of the competition. When you're trying to reach 100 and these things are worth 24 to 30 points, that's a huge chunk of pointage right there that you lost, or you might have lost, because you deleted something or removed a program, or you can't find something because it got deleted, or you got scanned and it removed a certain virus that you need to find. So make sure you stress to them, README file, answer the forensic questions, because they're very important. And as I was saying before, remember, you cannot take the exact forensic question and put it into Google and search for it. There have been instances in the past where kids have posted the question and the answer out on the web, well, specifically on Reddit, for the current competition. And CyberPatriot does monitor these websites, and they do monitor Reddit, and they look for these things. And when they find out who posted the question, they do eliminate the team. So be careful and have them, understand that there are consequences for doing these types of things. So lessons learned. Take advantage of the training rounds and the practice rounds. CyberPatriot, after our season through the summer, even right now, there are practice and exhibition rounds that are available for download and for use. If CyberPatriot's putting them out, coaches, they send you the email like they would regular images, and they are available for a time limit. But what you can get from those timed images are the answer keys, which are valuable for adding to your checklist and to the binder, because they have very good processes and ways to solve things, or how they put them in there to be solved. And the kids can use these as reference material for the competition, as well as study material while you're doing practice. Prepare your laptops and your computers the night before. So the night before a competition, I have the kids come in, we log in, I log into the computers, we preload the compressed image files onto the computers where they want them. And we make sure all the reference paperwork is ready. It's in one spot for the kids to use. So the next day when we get there, kids get settled. We wait for, if it's on a Friday, we wait for CyberPatriot to release the extraction password right as the competition starts. And then we don't have to go through all that chaos of, oh man, the image isn't working, we got to load this real quick. Because when you don't want to be trying to do all this the night before to find out you have technical difficulties. It's better to do it the night before, make sure things are working properly. And when you do the extraction, kids are ready to go. Be mindful of the clock. For new coaches and students, remind your students of this. This is a timed event. It is a 6-hour long event. It can go up to 6 hours. The key point that we're trying to make here is, if you have 5 students, you want them to all start at the same time. If one student starts before and the rest of them, that student has now started the clock. So you have to run off the competition off that student's clock. So instead of everybody starting at, say, 6 o'clock, you have one that starts at 5:58. Well, now you have to run off his time for the duration. So if your other students are, now their time is saying, well, you still got a few more minutes. Well, technically, no. The person that started first has the actual clock. You have to stop when his clock says 6 hours, a little before 6 hours. Now, Cisco is a little bit different because you have to upload a file. So the images are timed. CyberPatriot's watching the time on those. I have the Cisco kids, when they start, about 2 minutes afterwards, because they have to log in They have to get ready, then they have to do the quiz. So they can start a few minutes after. But when you have to upload that packet tracer file, you want to try to do it about the same time the other kids are stopping the images. So everybody stops at the same time. If two teams are competing in a shared space, you have to keep them either physically separated, with shower curtains, boards, something, if they're really close together, or if there's enough room in the area where you're competing to spread them out far enough so they can't see or hear what they're doing. There are instances in the past where schools, I'm only assuming, were very close together and they were sharing answers in the competition, and they got found out and they were disqualified. So to try to alleviate that, if you have more than one team and you have the ability, put them in separate rooms. If you don't, put a barrier up, or if they have enough room, spread the teams out throughout the room. Create a checklist for the team to keep the team on task. Very important again, these checklists, they need to feed them into them. Use the checklist, use the checklist, use the checklist. I've had my more experienced teams just say, well, I know everything on the checklist, and toss it aside, and then they hit a brick wall. I was like, okay, well, what do you need to do? Go back to the checklist. Checklists are very important for this competition. Adjust your documentation as you move deeper into the competitions. So first two rounds are going to be kind of easy because you're vying for placement. You're trying to get as many points as you can. And CyberPatriot isn't making the images that hard or that difficult. Now, as you go into round 3 and round 4, which is the state and semifinal rounds, you might want to try some more technical documents to help them dig deeper into the images, into the operating systems, to look for additional stuff. One of those might be CIS benchmarks if you aren't using them already, or if you haven't found them yet. CIS benchmarks put very deep technical stuff that can be used in addition to the checklists. So if you haven't found it, if you Google it, you'll find these things are like 800 pages long, 1,000 pages thick, but they are very detailed on certain exploitations, certain vulnerabilities, where they are, real world scenario, not just CyberPatriot, but where they can find and correct these items at. And here we have our resources. So as I was saying before, the new coach resource on the CyberPatriot webpage, all new coaches, I urge you to go there first. Check out what they have, check out the literature, check out the website for new coach resources. They also have, I believe it's a 45 minute video workshop for new coaches on YouTube. The CyberPatriot rulebook. Like I said earlier, the new rulebook should be coming out soon. They usually try to get one out before the start of the season or shortly after the start of the season. As of today, the CyberPatriot 14 book was out. We're still waiting for the CyberPatriot 15 book. There is the link for the CyberPatriot Facebook group. Just like any other Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, you have to go in, request to join, fill out your form. You can make sure who you are, and they'll let you in. Cyber training materials, the slideshows they have, some of the resources they have out there. There's the website. Practice images. These are from the California Cyber Guild. I've used these for years. That is the webpage for them. Some of them have an answer key. Some of them have a scoring engine inside of them. Some of them are just plain operating systems. So if you just want a plain operating system and you want to load the CyberPatriot scoring engine onto it, you have a plain operating system to play with. You can go in, create your own images. And if you want to just grab one that's already there for practice and for use, they have those there as well. Packet Tracer Labs. We've got the Packet Tracer Network at packettracerlab.com. They have all kinds of labs you can download, or they have pages or PDF files you can download, and you can recreate the Cisco Labs in Packet Tracer with the scenarios for the kids to work on. And for the forensic questions, here are some decryption, encryption, and stenography websites that I know the kids have used, and I know I've urged the kids to use when trying to answer some of these forensic questions. The number one encryption, decryption site that I tell them to use all the time is ASCII2HEX.com, because it has about 8 or 9 different ways to encrypt and decrypt text all at once. So if you can easily recognize, say if it's a base 64, you got a base 64 decryptor right there already, and it encrypts and decrypts it all at once. And Dan, I believe we're turning it back over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Frank. And now, before we move on to the Q&A session, I'd like to introduce Ms. Monique LaPlante, the CyberTexas program manager, who has a short announcement that may be of great interest to you all. Monique? You can go ahead and mute yourself, Monique.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dan. Yes, I was able to unmute now. And thank you, Frank, too, for the wonderful information. Additionally, I wanted to go ahead and make an announcement in regards to our upcoming resource that is launching soon. So this resource, the San Antonio Prep Test, has been designed by Julian Pena. He's an outstanding Cyber Patriot competitor with the idea to provide extra training and learning opportunities to our Cyber Patriot teams. Within the resource itself, there will be multiple practice images that align with each round of the competition. However, more information will come to follow later this week, so be on the lookout for an email this Friday addressed to all the coaches in regards to how to access this resource and when it will be available. We're planning to launch to be on September 30th. So once again, be on the lookout for an email later this week, this Friday, in regards to how to access the resource and the upcoming next steps.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Monique. That's a very interesting tool that's being developed by the foundation. We hope you all take advantage of it. Now, let's go through some of the questions that you've submitted. Frank, first one came in was, in regards to IT leadership, is there an existing whitelist that contains all of the URLs and sites that you mentioned?
Yes, Cyber Patriot does have that out there under technical specs of what you can give to the IT director or to your IT person that works at your school. So they know what ports need to be open and what software needs to be loaded.
Okay, so that's on the website for Cyber Patriot, and that includes the whitelist of safe sites that they can go ahead and permit through the firewall. Is that correct?
Safe sites, I'm not sure about that specifically. Like they're not going to go to this website to download updates or go to this website to download a program, but it's used for the IT directors of the technical people that run the networks, where they can kind of configure the switch or router to put them on a separate VLAN that can be monitored if they want to.
Okay.
And put on what they call a lease. So those competition computers are a bit more protected or a bit more open. But when that competition's over, it falls right back into the fold of everybody else.
All right. If that answers the question, please, if it doesn't, please let me know. Just go ahead and follow up on the chat. The next question that came up, can I preview the Cisco machine before I give it to the kids? Or how long after I restart the machine is it available? Is it 7 days?
Cisco Labs, like the VM images, as soon as you're done with the competition, you have to delete them. The competition images and Cisco, they give you, I think it's the current one is about 30 days. The exhibition ones over the summer run for a little bit longer. Those are for the images. Cisco, I think this year, with the way they reorganized everything, they now have a practice round in NetACAD. So if you have your students register with NetACAD, or you just created your new account with Cyber Patriot for them to use during competition, there should be a practice round Cisco lab out there for them to use.
Okay. The next question that came in was, how do we get a Cisco login? On my team's dashboard, both the login and password are blank, even though both teams are already confirmed. I have registered for Cisco as well.
Okay, so this year they changed how CyberPatriot and Cisco interact and what the coaches have to do in order to get the kids registered with Cisco. The coaches should have gotten an email. There should be one on the dashboard. But the quick answer is, if you take your team name and your team number and create a Gmail address with it for the team to use, and take a combination of, we'll take your team unique ID and put CP15 at the end for the password. Like I said, this is new. Usually CyberPatriot does this for us, but for what the email said, it's Cisco's way of making sure everything's more secure. So they're having the coaches do it now. The coaches should have the paper on how to do this. There are some problems currently where you can, if you have more than 4 teams, you have to find another way to create more Gmail accounts, because it only allows you to put your phone number in 4 times to create a Gmail account. This weekend, I had to sit down and create my 5 teams logins for the Cisco portion of the competition. So I ran out of numbers or email addresses on my cell phone number. I had to use my wife's cell phone number and my son's cell phone number to get the 5. Now, if you have 1 or 2, 3 teams, you might be fine. But I know this is a problem. They've talked about this before because there's a limitation with Gmail. But if you have more than 4 teams, this is what you're going to have to deal with for now until they have it figured out.
So let's follow up that question. How does a coach get, if he didn't receive the email or can't find it, how does the coach ask for that email to be resent from CyberPatriot?
Okay, so the worksheet is on the dashboard for the coach. If you don't see it after you log in, it should be like on the upper left-hand side. It should say something about creating Cisco accounts or NetAGAT accounts. Contact CyberPatriot themselves. You can either call them or send them an email, and their email should be at the bottom of the website, because I don't want to give up the wrong email address. I think it's something like info@cyberpatriot.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But contact them directly, and they'll be able to help you.
And by the way, everybody, personal experience, you call, someone's going to answer the phone. A human being will answer the phone up there. And 90% of the times, they have the knowledge to be able to answer most questions, especially procedural questions. We had another question that asked, are forensic questions in every round?
Yes, forensic questions are in every round. There's always 3 forensic questions per round, per image, per Windows and Linux image. Let me specify that. Cisco doesn't have forensic questions. They have a quiz they have to do. But each Windows and Linux lab, VM, they all have 3 forensic questions. Now the points vary. Like in the beginning rounds, they're worth more than they are in the later rounds. But there are always 3 forensic questions.
Okay. Well, that's the questions. That's all the questions that we were submitted. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to allow the participants to unmute themselves. If you have any further questions for Frank, you are now able to unmute your microphone and do so. I'll ask everyone to remain muted unless you are preparing to ask a question. And if you are going to ask a question, just be considerate of the time and try to be as succinct as possible. But you can go ahead and follow up the question while you've got the floor. Are there anybody who would like to ask a question? Ray, go ahead. You should be able to go ahead.
Yes, just real quick, if we're still in need of a mentor, either from Angelo State or anywhere else if they can virtually, is it still too late for that, or how do we get in touch with those people?
Frank, I'll take this one. First of all, no, it's not too late. In fact, I just got a message last night from someone that was volunteering, asking pretty much the same question. Is it too late? It is never too late, especially between the first and second round. For new teams, those first and second rounds that actually start in October, mid-October, sometimes they're the most valuable training experience that they can get because it's an actual competition. And they get scores, but they don't get eliminated. In fact, the first two rounds that end, the second round ends on the 6th of November. They get valuable experience, and not just the students, also the coaches and the teachers. And if there's a mentor there to be able to help them adjust their thinking or find the problems, they become part of the team. So the answer to the first point, no, it's not too late. Secondly, I think, were you asking the question about San Angelo State as a provider of mentors, or were you asking as a somehow, is it too late for the teams to get mentor from, say, the military community there? What exactly were you referring to?
Well, I mean, either way, I think we would be very receptive to either help if it came from Goodfellow or from Angelo State. I was only asking that because that's local for us, where I teach at TLCA.
I agree with you. I understand. I think that Ms. Scarlett Klaus is on right now, and she is one of the key folk we've been dealing with at San Angelo. And I think that the other thing we're trying to do here in San Antonio is help San Angelo by trying to get the FC folks involved to try to energize the industry folks there to be aware of what you're trying to do with Cyber Patriot. So that's one of the ways that the foundation is trying to help you all in that manner. The only other way that I would recommend would be, to go ahead and try to engage some of the military leadership there. Frank, you are in the military structure. Do you have any advice, additional advice you might be able to give in approaching the military?
You would contact their PAO office. They're a Goodfellow. I know they have cyber people there, and you can approach them that way and say that you're trying to find mentors for your Cyber Patriot team. They are not going to say no, and usually the Air Force community is pretty good with providing mentors to the local kids.
And
that would be what I would do. I would contact the PAO office.
And I think if we want to go ahead and follow that up a little bit more, I can work with you personally, directly, to try to give you a little bit more advice as to how what I've found with my experience. And I'd be happy. Just send me an email. Let's set up a time. We'll Zoom or do a phone call, and we can discuss your particular situation a little bit more in depth. I know the clock's ticking, but you'd be surprised sometimes just a phone call might be able to jar a mentor loose for you.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Ray. Okay, any other questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand, or go ahead, just jump in.
Can everyone still see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so here is the net ACAD competition requirement that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
So I'm logged in to my dashboard. This is where it is. When you click on it, it takes you through on a step-by-step of what a coach has to do to register.
Frank, we can't see your screen.
No, we can see the presentation.
Oh, okay, hold on. My fault, sorry. I thought I pulled it over top. Let me minimize, close the presentation. Let me pull the page back up. Can you see it now? No, I'm not
Not
sure.
yet.
Hang on.
While he's doing that, I will tell you all that this is a magnificent bit of technology,
There you go.
but we sometimes take it for granted because we attend so many meetings. You would be surprised the amount of study I had to do just to be able to manage this many people. So I appreciate when I get invited to a Zoom meeting and there are 30 people. the amount of background and knowledge that the operator knows what to do with this is rather sophisticated. Okay, Frank, we've got the Cyber Patriot page up.
Can you see the PDF now?
Yeah,
So here, let me go back one. So right here is from the coach's dashboard. This is the link you have to click. And it takes you back to the PDF file on how to register your team, each of your teams for a Net ACAT account for competition. So step by step, everything you have to do. I just wanted to let you know what it, show everybody what it looked like. I know this is the new thing. I know a lot of people have been having problems with it, creating these accounts, but that's the official guidance from Cyber Patriot. Again, if you're having issues with this, contact them directly and they should be able to give you better guidance or walk you through what you need to do.
is anybody else seeing a blank screen? I've got one person said they could only see a blank screen.
How about that?
It was visible.
Yeah,
It was?
okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Here, let me log back in. There you go. So remember, that is the link.
Okay, Ray, I understand. It might be your connection. I don't know. Or
Oh,
your
it's not
settings.
showing up?
Well, just
Okay.
for one person, yeah.
Okay.
But that's important. Okay,
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing.
do we have any other
Oh.
questions? Are there any other questions? I don't see them in the listing here. Okay. So thank you all for your patience. If you have any further questions for Frank, you are you're encouraged to please go ahead and reach out directly to us, to Frank or to myself. And there's our contact information. If you haven't, and when you go onto our website, you're going to get a request to sign up for our newsletter. This is kind of important. I've asked that you register for the newsletter because it's one of the ways that we send out information to everybody, and late-breaking information, or if there is some tip that's come up that we can go ahead and send to all the coaches or everybody that's registered on the site. So I remind you that the recording of this session and the slides that we used will be available on the CyberTexas website soon. As soon as we process them and get them loaded up, you'll be able to go there. Any, I was going to say, Joe?
Yes, I see that Dr. Goju over at Angelo State posed a question about mentors. Is there any particular guidance for them in how they become a mentor? And I'll add what their responsibilities might be and how they might engage with a potential coach.
Well, the normal process that we have is that we find that we get somebody who says that they want to be a mentor and have them register. But here in the San Antonio area, normally, because we have control over the entire region, we try to find coaches that are geographically situated close to wherever the school is. San Angelo is a little bit different, but I would always ask, first of all, that, find out, what's convenient to them. And the first thing I do is I go out and send out a call to the coaches saying, who needs a mentor? In your case, I believe that schools, as I already said, that they do need mentors. The next thing that I would normally do is I'd go ahead and I'd get the coach's contact after I speak to the mentor, and then put them together and have them work out a schedule between the two of them. There's one thing that we didn't cover about when you get a mentor, especially when it's in the military or even one that's in industry. You want to be able to provide them some documentation or provide some contact with their boss, whether it be military or industry. You want to be able to get their permission to be able to leave work early. And I will tell you that in most cases, these are civic-minded people. Even in the military, they're more than willing to go ahead and let somebody leave a half hour earlier from a duty station, as long as they have their work done, to be able to get to a school around 4 o'clock and be able to participate in the team practices, which normally occur right after school. So here in San Antonio, that's about 4:15 or 4:30. So it's kind of important to be able to think about the person that's volunteering. They need a little bit of support from you in the form of a letter or something that basically asks if it's okay for them to leave early and attend to helping the kids. Now, did that answer the Joe?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it helps. I would add, I understand that say cybersecurity experts or techies may not know how to teach or how to train. So one, being a mentor is a fantastic thing. We thank you for doing that. Just understand that they're there to provide expertise and support, and sometimes it's leadership skills, sometimes it's time management skills, sometimes it could be Linux or Windows, but just as mentors, to be open to the needs of the team. The team may have a Windows expert, but not a server expert. Team may have no Linux expert. So if you're a mentor and no Linux, fantastic. If you don't know somebody, help find somebody who knows Linux. So you're also there as a conduit between the team's needs and any of your network within your particular community. But again, it's really, you're going to build a relationship between the coach and the team members to see how a mentor can help. And I just had a call this afternoon with many mentors and folks from San Angelo. It's fantastic what they're doing out there. Just be open again to helping them. And I think what y'all are doing is fantastic out in San Angelo.
Yes.
I want to add something to that, if I can.
Go ahead.
A mentor doesn't always have to be just technical. It could be someone there who can, who's good at organization. It's good at finding resources that can help the kids learn how to find things more efficiently. So having a technical mentor there for Windows, Cisco, and
Linux.
Windows is Linux is preferable. But if you get someone that's good at finding resources, doing research, organizing things, that's just as valuable as having a technical person on the team as well.
And Frank, I agree. And I first I want to thank you and Dan for putting this together. I know it took a lot of work. I think what may be next is, if we were to have next in our series, is to have one of these for mentors, prospective mentors. Because I couldn't think of anyone better than you, Frank, to give your tips over the years, and then the tips that Dan has already shared this evening. But I can see how there's a little bit of a different perspective on what the needs are of a coach and what the responsibilities would be for a mentor. So something we can talk about.
Yes, and everybody, if you're not aware of that, this is Mr. Joe Sanchez, who is the founder and the CEO, as I call him, the executive director of the CyberTexas Foundation. He's been doing this for decades, working here in San Antonio to build an infrastructure. And now he's being asked to try to take that model and export it to places like Idaho and even outside the country, to Chile. Was it Chile or was it
Colombia?
Colombia. So there's great interest in this, and the way we put this together was to try to hit a balance between what does everybody know, what does everybody not know, and what do they need to know, or what would they like to know. The next in the series, yes, would be actually trying to understand how to be able to do something for mentors, because mentors have the requisite knowledge, but they don't really know how they fit in with a team. They don't know, what do they teach? What do I teach first? I would digress a little bit and tell you that this is one of the areas that the foundation is looking at very, very strongly right now. And we're trying to develop a tool that will be able to allow new coaches to be able to do what Frank had on one of his very first slides, the ability to go ahead and assess your team's current knowledge base. What do they know? What don't they know? And to be able to use this tool as you progress through the competition, which starts in the fall and goes all the way to the spring, to be able to assess how well your students are doing. Are they learning? Have they picked up the things that you wanted them to learn? And are they getting stronger at being able to compete? So it's one of those areas that we think is very important. The mentor has to know what to teach, and that is dependent on what is the current foundation or skill base that the team currently has. One other thing I always need to mention when it comes to mentors, and I tell prospective mentors this, Cyber Patriot is structured in such a way that the coach has to be a member of the school or associated with the school, affiliated with the school in some official capacity. The mentors are there to be as technical coaches and teachers. They are not there to discipline the kids. They're not there to handle problems. They're not there to do some of the other things that sometimes mentors feel that I don't want to do that. Well, first of all, you're not going to have to do that. And secondly, you're going to be dealing with a group of motivated kids that aren't going to give you problems because of a lack of attention. They're going to be pushing you to teach them more. And I think anybody would really want to be in that situation where you've got a group of kids that want to pick your brains and want to learn everything you have to teach them. The other thing is that parents don't have to be technical, and Frank touched on this. Parents don't have to be technical, but they can also serve as assistants to be able to help with the kids, get lunches, be able to help them, especially as they go into long practice sessions, to be able to help them know, to be able to help them with just some of the just some of the things that need to get done as a team is practicing. And it also gets parents invested in what the children are doing, what the kids are doing. And that's always very, very important.
Yeah, Dan, thank you on mentoring. And thank you, Dr. Godu, for the question. I do want to add something to what Monique LaPlante offered earlier. We're calling it SA Cyber Prep. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have Julian Pena helping produce those images for us. You may not know Julian, but Julian spent 7 years in Cyber Patriot beginning in middle school. He was part of at least 2, if not 3 national championship teams from Roosevelt JROTC Army. He earned his OSCP. If you don't know what OSCP is, look it up. It's one of the most difficult certifications to earn in cybersecurity. He's only a freshman at UTSA studying computer science. He is building images that, based on his 7 years experience, will help somewhat predict what he thinks will happen in each round. So these are going to be open to your teams beginning September 30th for 2 weeks prior to round 1. We plan to have the subsequent rounds. We plan to have SA Cyber Prep and these images ready for your teams to tear apart 3 weeks prior to every round as we progress into the year. And so, as Monique said, be on the lookout for emails. We'll get something out by Friday. We'll get you a link by next week. This is a fantastic opportunity to lift the knowledge base of our students and our teams. And we're very thrilled to have Julian join us in this SA Cyber Prep.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very, very much for that. And unless there are any other questions on that note, I'll go ahead and say that once again, if you have additional questions, you can reach Frank or myself at our CyberTexas email addresses, and we'll do our best to answer them. I'll again remind you that the recording of the session and the slides we used will be available on the CyberTexas website soon. So with that, I'm going to tell you, we wish you all great success with your programs and great luck in Cyber Patriot, Cyber Patriot 15. You're going to be hearing more from us. We'll be doing more sessions of this nature. We may go ahead and do another one of these and dig more deeply into some of the other information. In fact, we may just want to go ahead and just look at some of the things on the more on the technical end. So be on the lookout for those emails, and they'll be posted on the website. So we wish you great success with your programs and great luck in Cyber Patriot 15. And remember, the CyberTexas Foundation, we're here to help you succeed. So thank you all and have a good evening. Frank, thank you very, very much for your time.